Now, quietly, the Trump administration has pulled out a very clever maneuver to solve the affordability crisis. That's right, it's a dinner table issue that should be driving American politics right now because a lot of Americans, they're underwater. They are struggling to make ends meet. Those bills are piling up, and the energy prices and the gas prices and the food prices, all of it has been unsustainably high for over a year now, a couple of years. Now, Trump has helped to stabilize the inflation rate, to help it plateau to some degree. But of course, this war in Iran is not helping with the gas prices one little bit. And hopefully they can conclude that because things are heating up over there again. And Trump says he doesn't believe the Iranians anymore and that the MOU is in danger and that they're going to resume the airstrikes. Let's hope things calm down a little bit. Obviously we got to do what we got to do, but that's not looking good. We were hoping that the Russian-Ukraine conflict could be brought to an end and the Iranian conflicts, things like that wouldn't happen, or at least wouldn't drag out, right? That's the key thing for me. These things cannot drag out. You get into schoolyard skirmishes with insane terrorist regimes from time to time, but we can't be getting boots on the ground, getting sucked into these wars for the long term, and I think everybody agrees with that. So, that being said, we need to keep the domestic side under control, and what is the Trump administration doing about this? Well, they're purportedly surging mass deportations, and why does this matter? Well, the Federal Reserve just confirmed the cost of mass immigration, and it was huge. It led to a 30% increase in home prices and 20% rents, and so that harms U.S. citizens' housing affordability. Now, according to the Trump administration, they are driving down rents by ending open borders, and this is a huge deal because if you look at the state by state, there have been some significant decreases in rent prices, and this is going to help young people in particular because, hopefully they'll be able to afford a home sometime, but it looks like the inventories are still really high, and that goes in accordance with the prices. And, the interest rates on the mortgages, they're not looking too good either. Those things got to come down at some point, you would think. So the Federal Reserve has not been very friendly to us in this environment. So what is the Trump administration? Well, they're doing what they can. They claim that 3 million illegals have self-deported under this time. I'd like to see a little bit more verification of that, obviously. But even, a million or two would be positive. And that one vector of this, one barometer you might speak of, is the rent prices and the general prices, because it's a supply and demand issue at the end of the day. And the endless supply of illegal aliens has led to demand on our welfare system. So something like 2/3 of our welfare is being given to non-citizens or permanent residents, visa holders, etc., etc. And, I think it was around 61% as of 2024. And this is really interesting because there is a wrinkle about all of this, and John Stossel was talking about this recently. A historian named Johann Norberg explains that one of the major factors taking down the Roman Empire, and who hasn't thought about the Roman Empire on a daily basis? What caused the fall of the ancient Rome? Now, there were a lot of reasons, of course. If you read Gibbon, you would know some of them, but disease, famine, barbarian invaders. But Norberg says entitlement spending played a big role.
What caused the fall of ancient Rome? There were many reasons: disease, famine, barbarian invaders. But historian Johann Norberg covers one rarely talked about. You say entitlement spending played a big role.
The concept of bread and circuses, the emperors wanted to become popular by handing out free stuff to people. Originally, this started small. You just handed the very poor means of subsistence, make sure that they would survive. But that group was enlarged because it was popular. You want free olive oil or even free bread. So the group that lived on the public's expense grew larger all the time. And emperors complained about this constantly while they were expanding it. Everyone from Caesar and onward said, oh, we've got to reform this system because it means that we have fewer people working and more people consuming. But no one succeeded. Instead, it was expanded all the time, became more and more costly. So the Romans could conquer the world, but they couldn't do entitlement reform.
It just reminds me of what I see in the West now about pensions.
It's a very worrying sign in each of these civilizations. Once you have an ever-expanding system of entitlements that you can't afford, then you have to deal with it in different ways. Well, some of them just try to conquer other peoples and take their stuff. But once you run out of that, you have to resort to inflation. Rome started to debase the currency. They had less silver in every coin, which led to spiraling inflation that ruined economic relationships all over the Roman Empire. In a way, inflation was much worse than barbarian invaders. And the solution that they come up with was counterproductive. The Emperor Diocletian, he blamed greedy businessmen for inflation, something that we hear today as well. So he imposed price controls on more than 1,000 goods and even imposed the death penalty on any merchant that increased the price above a certain level. But obviously it all failed because he kept debasing the currency. So inflation kept going, prices kept rising. It only happened in the shadow economy and undermined the Roman Empire.
And this is true. Under Diocletian, they even tried to put in price controls, and there was a black market. Then, of course, you had the Visigoths, Alaric over there. They were invited in, practically, only to sack Rome. I mean, who couldn't have seen that coming? So we have invited in our own invaders, and they are sacking our treasury right now as we speak. That's because the Democratic Party is giving out goodies to try to bribe people into being loyal to the party and not to the country. And that is the way they want to overload the system. Cloward and Piven, everybody, you all know this, right? So the decline and fall of the Roman Empire, well, it could be the United States next if we don't get our house in order. So stop looking abroad for monsters to slay. Get our affairs in order. That includes our treasury. Stop debasing our currency. We need to get our act together. This is really a country in peril, and we owe it to our children and grandchildren to turn over the country not just as good as we found it, but even better. So weigh in with your thoughts about this story.